The rain fell in sheets across the fortress courtyard as Commander Takeda Hiroaki stood before his assembled warriors. Blood and mud stained their armor. 3 days of relentless battle against the Mongol invaders had pushed them to the breaking point. Behind the castle walls, frightened villagers huddled together, their fate resting on these exhausted shoulders. Some samurai stared at the ground. Others gripped their swords with trembling hands. Hiroaki could see it in their eyes, the shadow of doubt, the whisper of defeat. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the storm. "Warriors, defenders of our homeland, I see you standing before me, and I know what weighs upon your hearts. Your arms ache from swinging your blades. Your legs can barely hold you upright. You have fought with everything you possess, and yet the enemy continues to pour across our shores like an endless tide. Some of you are thinking, perhaps this is a battle we cannot win. I will not lie to you. I will not dishonor you with false promises or empty words. The enemy is vast. They have conquered nations that span beyond the horizon. Their arrows blacken the sky. Their warriors know no fear. By every calculation, by every measure of military strength, we should have fallen already. But we stand here still. And I will tell you why we continue to stand, and why we must never consider surrender or retreat. My father once told me a story, when I was merely a boy, long before I understood the way of the warrior. He took me to the edge of the sea during a terrible typhoon. The waves crashed against the cliffs with such violence, I thought the entire coast would crumble into nothing. I asked him, "Father, will the land survive?" He pointed to the rocks and said, "Watch." Wave after wave struck those cliffs, and yes, small pieces broke away. The water seemed so powerful, so relentless. But when the storm finally passed, the cliff remained. It had stood for thousands of years, and it would stand for thousands more. The rock does not defeat the wave, my father told me. The rock simply refuses to become the wave. It remembers what it is, even when everything around it demands that it change. This is what we are. We are the cliff. We are the ancient rock that refuses to yield. The Mongols look at us and see a small island nation. They believe that our size determines our strength, that their numbers guarantee their victory. But they understand nothing of the spirit that dwells in these islands, nothing of the code that burns in our blood. Each of you carries within you a lineage of warriors stretching back through the ages. Your grandfathers faced impossible odds. Your great-grandfathers stood against darkness. When hope seemed lost, they did not fight because victory was certain. They fought because their people needed them to stand in that moment, in that place, against that evil. Now, it is your moment, your place, your test. Some of you joined me on the beach 3 days ago. Do you remember what I said before we engaged the first wave? I told you that death may come, but dishonor must not. I see now that every single one of you heard those words. Not one warrior turned back. Not one sword remained in its sheath. When the enemy's feet touched our sacred soil, you met them with such fury, such unbreakable determination, that they were the ones who fell back in shock. Yes, they regrouped. Yes, they returned with greater numbers. And yes, we have lost brothers and sisters in this struggle. I myself carried the body of young Kenji from the Eastern Gate. Only 17 years old. He took 7 arrows defending the gap in our wall, and with his dying breath, he asked me only one thing. Did I do enough? Did I protect them? I held that boy and looked into his fading eyes, and I told him the truth. You are what every samurai aspires to be. You are honor itself. His sacrifice demands that we do not quit. Behind these walls are farmers who have never held a sword. There are mothers clutching children who barely understand what war means. There are elderly men and women who have lived their entire lives in peace, who tended gardens and wrote poetry and watched the cherry blossoms fall each spring. They cannot fight this enemy. They cannot stand against trained warriors from across the sea. Only we can protect them. Only we stand between our people and annihilation. When you feel your strength failing, when your sword becomes too heavy to lift, I want you to think of one person behind these walls. Just one. See their face in your mind. Remember their smile, their voice, their dreams for tomorrow. A daughter, a son, a wife, a friend, someone who depends on you to hold this ground. You are not fighting for abstract concepts. You are fighting for that person, for their life, for their future. And I promise you this, when you fight for something greater than yourself, you will find strength you never knew existed. Your body may be exhausted, but your spirit is limitless. Your muscles may fail, but your honor will carry you forward. I know some of you have begun to doubt. Perhaps you think, what difference can I make? I am only one warrior. If I fall, another will take my place. But this is the lie that defeats us from within. Every single warrior matters. Every sword, every arrow, every moment of courage ripples outward and strengthens those around you. When the enemy sees one samurai refuse to yield, refuse to show fear, refuse to accept defeat, it plants a seed of doubt in their hearts. They begin to wonder, what manner of warriors are these? What kind of people fight with such ferocity for their land? They are accustomed to armies that flee when the battle turns against them. They expect surrender when their numbers prove overwhelming. They have conquered vast territories because their enemies calculated the odds and chose survival over honor. But we do not calculate. We do not measure. We simply stand. This is the way of Bushido, the way of the warrior. It is not about winning or losing. It is about being true to your purpose, even when the entire world tells you to abandon it. It is about looking death directly in the face and saying, you may take my body, but you will never take my duty. I have lived 43 years. I have survived battles that seemed impossible. I have seen victory snatched from the jaws of defeat more times than I can count. And do you want to know the one constant in every single triumph? It was this. Someone refused to quit when quitting seemed reasonable. There was always one warrior who held the line when it should have broken. One archer who fired arrows when their fingers bled. One commander who ordered another charge when retreat seemed wise. Victory does not belong to the strongest or the most numerous. Victory belongs to those who outlast despair. The Mongols are fierce, yes. They are experienced, yes. But they are far from their homes. They fight for conquest and glory. They serve khans and emperors who sit in distant palaces, who will never remember their names or honor their sacrifices. You fight for something they can never understand. You fight on the graves of your ancestors, on the soil watered by generations of your blood. You fight for people you love, in places you call home. Every stone in this fortress, every tree in these forests, every grain of sand on these beaches, this is yours. This is what your great-grandchildren will inherit if you do not break. That is a power they cannot match. That is a strength that transcends mere numbers. Tonight, when you sleep, if we are blessed with sleep, I want you to rest with pride. You have already proven yourselves beyond measure. You have already earned your place among the greatest warriors our nation has ever produced. But tomorrow, when the sun rises and the enemy advances once more, I need you to reach deeper than you have ever reached. I need you to find that final reserve of courage, that ultimate commitment to our cause. Because I will tell you a secret that the enemy does not know. They are closer to breaking than we are.